Hi there, Frontline Church family and friends. We are in 1 Corinthians 15, verse 3 through to 16. I know we're recapping every time, but not everyone is following every single video. But Paul is writing to a church he founded, responding to issues, questions, problems that have been raised. The main issue was their lack of unity. They were against one another. They were in cliques, partisan, particularly around personalities. If you remember at the start, I follow Paul, I follow Cephas, I follow Apollos, I follow Christ. They were sort of picking their favourite teacher, preacher, based on the truth they wanted to hear. And they were creating cliquey groups around that. Paul is calling them to unity. And that is certainly what's happening here in this passage as we go into verse 3, is the unity of the gospel. Paul is calling them up to that top layer that unifies us all together. The gospel that Christ died, that he was buried, and that he was raised to new life on the third day. This is, we'd call this a kerygma in some church traditions. It's a confession of the gospel. It's and it was there before Paul. It was something that Paul received and passed on. And again, we could think of evangelism very much like that. We receive the gospel, we pass it on. We simply pass it on and share it with others. And the gospel has a power of God to change lives simply through that action. So here we see this gospel that Paul received that unifies, that is bigger than Paul. It's bigger than any of the personalities in that Corinthian church. It was there before Paul. He received it and he passed it on. It'll be there after Paul. And that is true for all of us, isn't it? You know, if we want to be unified, if we want to really connect together, we are people of the gospel. It was there before us and it will be there after us. And Paul says of each point of this, he says, according to the scriptures. According to the scriptures. In other words, this Old Testament bit spoke of Christ's death, burial and resurrection. And it's evidenced through the scriptures. I mean, what other evidence is there? With all the opinions, ideas, beliefs, news, fake news, alternative truths, there is no other evidence greater than what we find in here. That's why we have to read it and soak in it. That is the test. And when we get into verse 51 of this chapter, Paul's going to use a term, a mystery. He's going to talk of the resurrection as a mystery. And what he's talking about is like hidden truth now revealed. And if you think about it, there are so many things about the life of Jesus, his birth to a virgin, his sinless life, his atoning death on a cross, his suffering, his resurrection, that they're in this bit, they're in the Old Testament, but we only realise that through hindsight. It only makes perfect sense retrospectively. If it had made sense in advance, then when Jesus came to earth, then those Pharisees and those people of the day, it would have just been so obvious to them. But it wasn't obvious because it was a mystery. And that is true, that Christ died, that Christ was buried, that he was raised on the third day. Psalm 16 verse 10, for example, you will not let your Holy One see decay. Isaiah 53 talks about the suffering of Christ and his resurrection, if you can see it. We then move into verse 10. This gospel that we proclaim, according to the scriptures, hinges on grace. And I love how Paul talks about his work. He says, I worked harder than everyone, yet it wasn't me working. It was God's grace at work through me. And if you know me, you know that I'm all about this idea of a reflex. If I poke you in the eye, you blink. Grace is not opposed to work in the sense that it's not opposed to effort, but it's opposed to striving. It's opposed to self-effort. It's opposed to an earning type of attitude. But when we really receive God's grace, like the light that shines in the eye, like the hammer on the knee, we reflex and swing with work, with kingdom activity. We see our lives and the lives of those around us transformed. God's grace at work within us. Once again, not only do we have the gospel, but what is passed on to us, but we have God's grace to unify us together. Then as we go into verse 12, Paul is addressing a specific falsehood in the church in Corinth, in Greece. They're shaped by that Greek thought and philosophy that said spirit is good, flesh, body is bad. Therefore, when you die, the best you can hope for is for the body to decay and the spirit to float into the sky. And Paul's saying that is not what we believe. We believe in a bodily resurrection. We do not believe that when we die, our souls float up to heaven. That is not what the Bible teaches. Rather, our bodies go into the ground, and when Christ returns and heaven comes to earth to invade earth, to make all things new, we are raised into resurrection bodies, to have a bodily resurrection, to live and reign with Christ on the earth forever. And that's what we're going to read through the rest of the chapter 16, a spectacular passage. But the whole point is this: our faith is supernatural. The elements of our faith are supernatural. Without the resurrection, there is no Christian faith. And in fact, tomorrow's reading, Paul will say, it's futile if we don't even believe in the resurrection. So I want to challenge you and encourage you today. Everything about our Christian faith is supernatural. So let's believe for the supernatural today. Let's expect the supernatural in the world in which we live. Have a wonderful day.